By the spring of 1942, despite the failure of Operation Barbarossa to defeat the Soviet Union in a single campaign, the Wehrmacht had captured vast territories, including Ukraine, Belarus, and the Baltic republics. On the Western Front, Germany held much of Europe, the U-boat offensive was curbing American support, and in North Africa, Erwin Rommel had just captured Tobruk. In the east, the Germans had stabilized a front running from Leningrad to Rostov, with several minor salients. Hitler remained confident of breaking the Red Army, despite heavy losses west of Moscow in the winter of 1941-42, because large parts of Army Group Center had been rested and re-equipped. Hitler decided that the 1942 summer campaign would target the southern Soviet Union. The initial objectives around Stalingrad were to destroy the city's industrial capacity and block the Volga River traffic, crucial for connecting the Caucasus and Caspian Sea to central Russia. The capture of Stalingrad would also disrupt Lend-Lease supplies via the Persian corridor. On the 23rd of July 1942, Hitler expanded the campaign's objectives to include occupying Stalingrad, a city with immense propaganda value, as it bore the name of the Soviet leader. Hitler ordered the annihilation of Stalingrad's population, declaring that after its capture, all male citizens would be killed and women and children deported due to their thoroughly communistic nature. The city's fall was intended to secure the northern and western flanks of the German advance on Baku to capture its petroleum resources. This expansion of objectives stemmed from German overconfidence and an underestimation of Soviet reserves.
Hier traf eine Bombe schwersten Kalibers einen Güterzug.
After delays in troop movements and logistical challenges, the Kharkov operation began on the 12th of May. The Soviets achieved initial success, prompting 6th Army Commander Friedrich Paulus to request reinforcements. However, the German counterattack on the 13th of May halted the Soviet advance. The initial advance of the 6th Army was so successful that Hitler intervened and ordered the 4th Panzer Army to join army groups south to the south. A massive roadblock resulted when the 4th Panzer and the 1st Panzer choked the roads, stopping both in their tracks while they cleared the mess of thousands of vehicles. The traffic jam is thought to have delayed the advance by at least 1 week. With the advance now slowed, Hitler changed his mind and reassigned the 4th Panzer Army back to the attack on Stalingrad. By the end of July, Soviet forces were pushed back across the Don River. At this point, the Don and Volga rivers are only 65 kilometers apart, and the Germans left their main supply depots west of the Don. The Germans began using the armies of their Italian, Hungarian, and Romanian allies to guard their left flank. Italian actions were also mentioned in official German communiques. To the south, Army Group A was pushing far into the Caucasus, but the advance slowed as supply lines grew overextended. The two German army groups were too far apart to support one another. Beginning in late August and lasting into October, the Soviets committed between 2 and 4 armies in hastily coordinated and poorly controlled attacks against the Germans' northern flank. The actions resulted in over 200,000 Soviet army casualties but did slow the German assault. The Germans formed bridgeheads across the Don on the 20th of August, with the 295th and 76th Infantry Divisions enabling the 14th Panzer Corps to thrust to the Volga north of Stalingrad. The German 6th Army was only a few dozen kilometers from Stalingrad. The 4th Panzer Army, ordered south on the 13th of July to block the Soviet retreat with the 17th Army and the 1st Panzer Army, had turned northwards alone to help take the city from the south. On the 23rd of August, the 6th Army reached the outskirts of Stalingrad in pursuit of the 62nd and 64th Armies, which had fallen back into the city. Stalin rushed all available troops to the east bank of the Volga, some from as far away as Siberia. Regular river ferries were quickly destroyed by the Luftwaffe. General Oberst Wolfram von Richthofen's Luftflotte dropped some 1,000 tons of bombs on the 23rd of August, with the aerial attack on Stalingrad being the most single intense aerial bombardment at that point on the Eastern Front, and the heaviest bombing raid that had ever taken place on the Eastern Front. At least 90% of the city's housing stock was obliterated as a result. The Stalingrad tractor factory continued to turn out T-34 tanks up until German troops burst into the plant.